two. Oh, wait, hey, Damon, wait a minute, you're not Damon. Nicole, how are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Kurt. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited. Damon, we miss you. We miss you wherever you
We,
are in
we
Utah.
missed,
He's in Utah, right? Isn't he in
you know
Utah
what?
traveling?
He was at the Grand Canyon this week. He is all over. So
Nice.
our main the band leader is out traveling with his amazing, wonderful wife today. And so Nicole, thank you for filling in. We have Nicole Donnelly on the stage. Nicole, this is like Hero Day for me. Like, I don't know if it's like, is it National Hero Day or something? Because like it must be National Hero Day because this is like a huge, huge day for me. I want to introduce my dear friend Luis Velasquez. Luis, how are you? Happy Friday. How's it going?
Happy Friday to you too. I don't know if I call it happy. Happy is my least favorite day of the week.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Let's open up with that. Let's share.
Yeah.
Uh, During the week, I own my calendar. During the weekend, my kids and my wife own and I have no idea what they have planned. So, but
That's
having
so
said that, is my least favorite day of the week. But I love doing what I do with them. So even though it's just it's not predictable.
Well, that is, and I see the beautiful family right over your shoulder. I think Alexis and Nathan. I think I might see their pictures over your shoulder there.
Yep.
So, big shout out to your family. So, guys, coming at us live, drop a note. You absolutely want to connect with Luis here on LinkedIn, and so we're going to dig deep into a super fun conversation here, Luis. As we dig in, Nicole, you talk about like Mr. Underachiever here. I'm gonna rattle off some of his accomplishments. I think not one PhD. Luis, is it two? Do I have that correct? You have two PhDs. Like Nicole. Remember when I applied and I wanted to get my PhD, but I misspelled PhD, so they turned me down. So, all right. So PhD, high level executive coach. You write for Harvard Business Review. You have a new book coming out. We're going to talk about. So tons and tons of things to unpack here today, Luis. Before we go there, my first question, we just have a couple questions for you today. But my first question for you today, little boy growing up, and if I'm not mistaken, Guatemala might be home for you. Do I have that correct?
cool.
As a little boy growing up in Guatemala, I'd love to know who was your hero? Who was your hero as a little boy growing up?
My dad.
Nice.
My dad was my hero. This man was hardworking and he sacrificed everything for his family. So I think that he was my hero. And my mom was as well. They both were the driving force of our family. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I know you've shared, I've got a nice, little family history background, your siblings, everybody's just like hitting the ball out of the park, just wonderfully successful. You have a great family. I think you have a family business, do you not?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And just doing extremely well. So it's just, so how about shout out to mom and dad? Mom and dad's name, please. What's the name of mom and dad?
My dad's name is Obdulio.
Yep.
My mom's name is Berta.
Perfect. All right. Well, hey, big shout out to mom and dad for just raising such amazing, incredible kids. And so, Nicole, I want to dig into a couple of things here about Luis. Now, first off, I met Luis, like you hear about somebody virtually. Well, I heard about Luis through a book. Okay. And the book is this book right here. It is called The Long Game. And this book was written by, she's kind of a big deal, just a little bit of a big deal. Her name's Dory Clark. She's a Wall Street Journal bestselling author. And this book is absolutely phenomenal. She wrote the book Stand Out. She wrote Entrepreneurial You. So when this book came out, I bought it immediately and I read this book. And I want to share something with you from this book. Okay. And in this particular chapter, they talk about going to extremes. And I just want to share this with you, just kind of set the pace for what we're getting in here today. Okay. So often in life, we take pains not to set ourselves up for disappointment. So we play it safe. Nicole, do you ever play it safe? Right. It's like, one of talk about people's biggest regrets is playing it safe. It doesn't seem practical. Why even think about it? We dream of becoming the senior director, not the CEO. We think big, plan how to land a gig, how to land a gig for a band once a week at the neighborhood pub, as opposed to trying to hit the Billboard charts. All right. So the big point of this chapter here is like it's talking about playing it safe versus like really aggressively pursuing our dreams. I just want to share a couple more things here. If a goal is worth pursuing, it's worth pursuing the version of it we actually want, not one that's watered down to protect our ego. Big goals on their own might feel paralyzing. How do you even start to write that novel? Big goals coupled with small, consistent efforts can be exactly the galvanizing force we need to achieve something powerful. That's exactly how my dear friend Velas did that. And Velas is actually in this book. So I read about Velas in this book. Get this. As a professor at Michigan State, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Luis, do you want to take the story from here?
Yeah. It's so I was doing what I love to do. The reality is that at that moment, I was married. I had a house. My career path was already set out. All I needed to do is publish some papers, get tenure, and I was done. And unfortunately, there are things that happen that we have no control over. And I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. When I came back from the surgery and all the stuff, the doctor told me, you have to accept your new reality. And your new reality is that you probably won't be back to be a professor, I don't know when. And you probably won't be able to walk straight anymore. And that was very hard for me to accept. So long story short, neither my professional dreams nor my marriage survived. And I think that the key for me was, okay, so now what do I do? What do I do? And I needed to reinvent myself, and I kid you not. I mean, I was thinking, okay, what can I do? I consider real estate. I consider, maybe I'll just become a greeter at Walmart. Many things. And I think that the one thing that I remember my dad is that he had a huge accident too, and he became a very successful after that. And I think that the biggest lesson for me is that I started using the pain as a motivation to do better. And I realized that the one thing that I learned also from my dad is that the world doesn't belong to the people that know the most, but the people that learn the fastest. And a lot of times, the mistake that I made in the past is to attach my identity to what I do. I was a professor. I was kind of a big deal. I have a Ph.D. I was kind of a big deal. When all that was taken away, my sense of worthiness started to decrease. And it's like, oh my gosh, And then I realized that the person that existed before wasn't there anymore. I was a completely different person, tumor included. So I gave my tumor a funny name. I call it my precious. It's my precious, and it's part of who I am. And I decided, that I needed to, do something else and do something better, and detach myself from what I do, and just I adopt the identity that I wanted to have. And at that time, it's like, I am going to be persistent. I'm going to be committed to my well-being, and I'm going to be optimistic. And since then, those three things stuck. So that's who I am. I am an optimistic person. I am a persistent individual, and I am a committed individual. And that drives me to do whatever I want to do. And so that's the short story.
Well, just to continue on that, just give everybody an idea. So I know you deem yourself a recovering scientist. So brain tumor warrior, you have completed over 100 marathons. You've done 9 Ironman triathlons. You professor at Stanford. Not only do you have your Ph.D., you have an MBA. And I just want to share, this is another thing I want to share from the book. When you were diagnosed, you were in Chicago. And you were standing in Chicago the day you were diagnosed. In this book, it says that you turned to your wife and you said, this marathon's going on. I'm going to run it a year from now. And sure enough, you talk about right here Many people suffering from the effects of brain surgery would have heeded to the doctor's request. You're lucky to be alive. Forget about running a marathon, but Luis, with his goal, made all the difference. You said running at the time became the only thing that was giving me a sense of winning. And sure enough, you ran that Chicago Marathon a year later. Like, I'm getting chills just even thinking about it. How, and what I absolutely love this. I think in here, your tagline became "Forget the marathon." So it was like you kind of said, like, forget the tumor. I'm doing the marathon. So instead of forget the marathon, you took an action, like you're saying, you twist the positive. I'm forgetting about the tumor. And then you called your physical therapy. Get this, Nicole. He's going brain tumor. He's going through physical therapy, and he called that his physical therapy was his marathon training. I mean, just like Luis, like how did you get that stamina, just that resiliency? How, like, where did that come from?
Yeah. I think that I don't want to say that I am like that stamina or I am stronger than everybody else. I think that what has made the difference for me is that I tend to see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I remember, when my first memory, as a kid, my dad was a truck driver. Yeah. And he sometimes he will go on the road for 3 or 4 days at a time, and I was attached to him, he and I, were attached to him. And I remember that sometimes he needed to go and I didn't want him to go, grab to his leg or try to do something, for him not to let him go. Yeah. And I came up with this game, and my game was, let's play hide and seek. And my dad say, okay, you find me and I'll see. I mean, you're the seeker and I hide. And he will do that, but he will take off. And I will keep on looking for him for 3 days straight. You see what I'm saying? But the reality is that I realized that growing up later, I realized that I knew that he was gone, yet I kept looking for him. Yeah. So how does that translate to my recovery? I think that the key here is that if I want to act differently, I need to think differently. Yeah. If I need to think differently, I need to see differently. So how we see the world is how allow us to move forward. And as I said, I am not any, stronger than anybody else. I just tend to see things from a different perspective, and that's what I do with my clients. I help them to see the possibilities, because a lot of times we feel that we don't have any choice. Yeah. And I think that the biggest power that God has given us, or life has given us, is the power of choice. And not doing anything is a choice. And seeing things differently is a choice. So that's what I do. You see what I'm saying? So like today, for instance, when you ask, how's the day? And I say, it's a beautiful day, even though it's raining and it's crappy and it's windy, but it's a beautiful day. Right. So I think that looking back, that was a coping mechanism for me when I was a kid. I grew up really poor. So sometimes, the idea, it wasn't about, I asked my kids, what do you want to have for breakfast today? For us, it's like, are we going to have breakfast today? And I remember sometimes, my mom was very creative about making all sorts of foods. And I will fool my brothers and sisters, making them believe that there was something else. And even though we probably ate the same thing 3 days or 4 days in a row. So I think that that's, at the beginning, was a coping mechanism for me, like, how can I see things differently so I can survive it? Yeah. But now it is like, holy crap, this is something that I do, and helps me to, to paint a picture that motivates me rather than intimidates the hell out of me.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. I think something that I think is really interesting that you've experienced is you've gone through a lot of pain, right? Like so much pain, but it's how you look at the pain and how you embrace it and see it as an opportunity rather than something that's going to hold you back. It's like reframing that, because I look back and think like anything in my life I've ever done that's worth anything is on the other side of pain and struggle. Yeah. And how can we like really see our challenges not as like these terrible, awful things, but how can you reframe the pain so that you're not suffering, but you get on the other side of it. So I think that's so inspiring.
Yeah, and another way of seeing that,
Mhm.
is about you choose your pain.
Oh, yeah.
In other
Yeah.
words, like the way I see this sometimes, like going to the gym is hard, but not being in shape is hard too. You see what I'm saying?
Not
That's true.
No
That's
having,
true.
no having clients is hard. Like, oh my God, I'm in pain. I'm not having trying to go out there and get new clients is painful and hard as well. You see, so
Yeah.
you choose your pain, and I think that the way I see here is what is the to your point is like what is at the other side of that. In one point is regret, and the other one is progress. So yeah, you're gonna. So life is hard. Let's get that. Life is not easy. Life is fucking hard.
right.
Okay.
Right. Hey, you know what? My mom doesn't mind. I'm just teasing. So, all right, guys, if you're just joining us, you want to absolutely connect with Luis. And so, Luis, just kind of recap, Ph.D. from Michigan State, professor, Stanford. You write for the Harvard Business Review. You've been putting out some incredible, amazing articles. I'd like to touch on those today. You have a new book coming out, I believe. Can I share the title of the book? Are we there?
Yeah.
Ordinary Resilience. Ordinary Resilience is the title of your new book. And you're a high-level executive coach, and like everybody, you're just getting a little small, just a sliver of just the resiliency that Luis brings when he's working with his clients in his articles, with his book, and just everything about him is just this contagious enthusiasm. Luis, let's kind of get into your process a little bit. So, working with high-level executives, you're dealing, there's egos, there's challenges, you get two people in a room, there's potential for conflict. Can you talk a little bit about like how you approach working with the leaders that you work with, and just let's go there first.
Yeah, I think that, the reality is that we all, every single one of us want to get better at something.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one wants to, accomplish something. I don't think that I haven't met one single person that says, I want to be mediocre today. We all do. So I think that for me, when I meet with individuals is, and when I think about this, I've been blessed to, work with these individuals that are incredibly motivated. They are very successful, and sometimes, it seems that there is something there that is not allowing them to move to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And the key here is not trying to find what they need to do, but who they want to be.
You
see what I say?
Who they want to be.
Yeah. So, for instance, if you think about, a lot of times, and as a small business owner, as an individual, of brown color, let's put it that way, I'm a person of color. A lot of times, we feel that we are not looked at seriously because what we do or what we are. And I think that is very dangerous if we believe that ourselves about ourselves. So, like, for instance, the way I see this, there are so many things that you need to do in order to bring your business. You have to create your product. You have to do some marketing. All this about doing. I think that the idea is, who do you want to be? I want to, and I'll give you an example. One individual, chief technology officer of an organization, he was perceived as a bully. He will come in and he will bark at people. People were quitting because of him. The organization was like, what the hell is this guy doing? The problem is that they couldn't, get rid of him because he was one of the co-founders, and he was the person that basically was the soul of the organization in terms of he was the brain power, so he couldn't get rid of him. So when I started working with him, over several sessions, so I asked him, so what do you want to be known for? What is it at the end of when you retire from this organization, what do you want to be known for? And he said, I want to be known for the person that made this company a success. And I said, okay, what else? I want to be known for the person that taught people and is a good mentor and is that push people to achieve their biggest goals. And I said, okay, let's do that then, focus on that. So I said, what do you want to be now? I said, I want to be a mentor. And I said, okay, so start doing the things that mentors do. You see what I'm saying? And he didn't change the way he behaved. He will come and bark and he will come and push people around. But now the intention was to teach and mentor them. Mm-hmm. So what he will do is like, hey, Kurt, I know you can handle this. I want you to grow. You see what I'm saying? I think that, I push you because you have so much potential. And now it's barking. That thing at the beginning softened quite tremendously the barking, let's put it that way, because otherwise he will come and just bark. He wasn't giving his intention. So I think that a lot of times executives have not a behavioral problem, but a positioning problem.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I want to share one thing. You work with companies like Google, Gilead, Salesforce, Citibank, IBM. I just want to share one quote, Nicole, with somebody from Google that they shared about Luis. Luis was instrumental in helping my team work through cultural issues after a transformational merger. He quickly gained the team's trust and teased out the critical areas for us to focus on. Luis developed action plans for us to reach our goals and armed us with tools to hold ourselves accountable. He is truly a gifted leadership coach. Now, Luis, you have a couple approaches that I want to share. The two key elements that you love to talk about is that self-awareness and the change process. Could you kind of enlighten our folks a little bit on your two keys for that?
I think that there are three things on that component. Number one is what I call is the dialogue that I have with myself. The intra.
Yeah.
What is stories do I have? Yeah, what stories do I have about myself? How I see myself, and I think that is key. The other thing that is key in terms of awareness is so how others perceive me and what is the impact that I have on others. And the way I describe this, my wife and I, sometimes, we get into fighting matches. Yeah. If we're driving together and she says a red light and she's thinking, oh my God, it's a red light, be careful, we want to be safe. But when she comes out saying, hey, be careful, stop, and I'm hearing, and what I hear from her is a stop. And I hear, oh my God, this is a woman that is actually trying to teach me how to drive. You see what I'm saying?
My God.
Just stop, I know how to drive. You see what I'm saying? And I think that a lot of times is we have great intentions with people, but the way we come across is doesn't have the impact that we intend to have. So I think that is another level of awareness is how people perceive us. And that's the second component. And the third component is what is the impact that we want to have? So what is the expectation of the organization, of us? What's how do like with this individual, that I was talking about, he said the impact that I want to have is I want this organization to grow and to be successful. And I want everybody here to feel that I am the best mentor for them. You see what I'm saying? So those are the three things. If you are aware of who you are, what are your triggers, what motivates you, how do you come across, and what is the impact that you want to have in the world, man, you're off to the races.
You're unstoppable.
But having said that, I have not met one single person that know the answer to all those three things.
Right.
I was just going to say, I think that it is so easy for people to get into the weeds and not really take the time to reflect and understand the answers. Even myself, just the other day, I was signing up for a class, and that one of the questions that was asked was, what do you want to be known for? And I had to stop myself. I was like, I'm not really sure what I want to be known for, And so I think I love that you approach it that way. The other thing I really liked about your example is that you were really empathetic to this person, who they were, and the way that you coached them was true to who they were as a person. You weren't trying to change their personality style or whatever. You really honed in on how you could help channel that in a much more effective way by having him lead with his intention. And I think
I
that that's really important.
I haven't met, I think that we all get up in the morning, and I have not met one person that decides in the morning and says, I'm gonna be an asshole today.
That's so true.
You know, it's I learn a lot from my children. I have 2 kids, and sometimes my kids, they misbehave, and all children want to be good. All children want to be good, and so we all want to be good too. And I think that there are 3 elements that sometimes impede us from achieving our best. And number 1 is the mindset, number 2 are the behaviors, and number 2 are the habits. Number 3, the habits. Right. And those are, if you think about that, sometimes when I go in and coach people, sometimes what they need to work is on the mindset, or what behaviors they have, or what habits they have. And then, so if once I realize that, then I can help them to acquire the skills that they will require to start making those behaviors and doing those habits that will allow them to to be good kids. Let's put it that way.
Right. So, Luis, if somebody out there, they're like, man, this is really inspiring. Love your story. Kind of, and you work with high level executives. We target a lot of like small entrepreneurs. And so, a big part of your practice or your preach is that you just hit on it, that growth mindset. Can you kind of take us through like a 101, or like say somebody out there that they are stuck, or maybe again, they have a small business and they're, just kind of having challenges running, managing, kind of getting that growth mindset. What's some advice that you would give to somebody out there?
And again, going back to, who do you want to know, and what is your gift to the world? Mm-hmm. We think about the growth mindset as, I have to do X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And I think that for me is finding the motivation to grow. And as I mentioned earlier, I am an underdog. So I'm actually rooting for the underdogs. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, especially small business owners, especially people that, they have small businesses, they see their work as a struggle. They don't see what they have as a gift to the world. Mm-hmm. And if I am making this cup, and I say I need to sell it, that becomes the motivation. Mm-hmm. But if I say, this is the cup, and this is a gift that everybody should have, this will change the life for everyone. Mm-hmm. Then your motivation has a bigger meaning. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then you start like, man, it should be a scene if not many people understand and see this. So going back to what you said earlier, and stop being stop your book, stop being the best kept secret.
Not being the best kept secret, sorry.
Because the world needs you. The world needs the product that you produce. And I think that attitude, that mindset change allows you to give yourself permission to take more risks, allows you to give yourself permission to fail. You're not a failure because you failed. You're successful because you learn from your failures, and that's the idea.
Right. Absolutely love that. Hey, so you help coaches, you help your executives to accelerate their leadership development. So say like the gentleman that was like a little bit challenging and so on and so forth. Again, if there's a small manufacturer out there and like, though they didn't wake up this morning and say like, hey, I'm going to be a jerk today, but just say, whatever, something's going on at home, or just they're not happy with themselves. They're not in that happy mindset right now. Are there things that folks can do to like really enhance their leadership development and to get into that more positive mindset?
Well, I think that the idea that the mindset is going to make you perfect. Mm-hmm. I think that what I think that we all need to do is to be very self-compassionate and be able to forgive ourselves. And sometimes, people come and they do things that they're not supposed to be doing. It's okay. But make sure that you realize that you did it wrong, and you're going to ask for forgiveness, or it's not about not failing. It's about recovering quickly.
I love that. And because then it gives you permission to be
Absolutely.
yourself grace.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
to get it right every time.
I mean, I literally, one thing that I do, after, a coaching call or after a chemistry meeting or everything that I do, I ask myself one question: did I do my best? And the answer is absolutely. So who cares about the results? I did my best. Next time is going to be better.
That reminds me of Kurt, actually, because that's what he tells his daughter every time she leaves the house. Do your best. Do your best. So sweet.
That is. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate it.
That's doing.
I love that.
My kids and I don't know if I shared that with you. In the morning, I drive them to school in the morning, and the first thing that we do, we have a little rock, and we pass the rock around, and we say, the three things that we're grateful for. I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. And then, so I once we finish that, then I ask them, so what kind of family are we? And they say, we are a grateful family, and we are kind, confident, strong, and resilient. And we've been doing this for, I don't know, since they started, talking. And it is amazing to me how those little kids have adopted that. Like, for instance, when my son is misbehaving, the only thing that instead of telling him, don't do that, I ask him, is that what kind people do?
Wow, that's so good. You're teaching him to be self-aware and to lead himself. That's amazing.
So he makes his own choices. And I think that when we are focusing on doing, we don't have a choice. We have to do. And I think that the key here is finding that you have a choice. And going back to you, is like, your choice is like, I'm not going to do it today. And that's okay.
Yeah. But also, I love that too, because I think it just illustrates how important it is, that mindset, like you intentionally doing that with your kids, right? Regularly saying those affirmations over and over, day after day. That is like building resilience for them. And so to me, I'm just thinking, like, as a leader, how can we identify what we want, those values that align with what you said? Who do you want to be? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be known for? Making that your North Star, and then coming up with whatever those value statements are, and just telling yourself those over and over again, so that it just becomes part of your mindset. It's like when I go to Orange Theory and I'm running at all out pace, okay, and it feels awful, okay, I feel like I want to die, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but I tell myself, this is so much fun, I love this, I'm having such a great time. Even though it feels awful.
and apply that to apply that to some of the leaders that I coach, and I ask them, so what kind of team do you want to have? What's the team that you want? And there's, they will start talking about it, and then we create a document, and the document is like, we support each other, we're transparent, and we are I don't know, something else,
integrity.
And those become the driving principles for his team. You see what I'm saying? So they adopt an identity, because now, if you know that our behavior is that we're transparent, if I tell you, hey, listen, you made a mistake, it's not about accusing you. No, we're transparent, and that's why I'm telling you this.
It's so interesting. So it's almost like there's not really one true way to build a culture, right? Like every culture will have their own unique values, and it's about getting in tune with those values.
Yeah. People say, we have a coaching culture, or we have a culture of psychological safety. A lot of people don't understand what that means at all. So I think that some of the work that I do with the clients is defining, like, what do you want to be known for? What do you want your team to be known for?
Right.
I was working with a leader, her team, they used to call him the bucket, because everybody that didn't want to do something, they will throw it to her. You see what I'm saying? And her team was like overwhelmed, and she was, she was having a hard time, trying to manage that, because she will think that everything that people requested, she needed to do it, and she will overload her team. And one day we were talking, I said, so what are you, and then we started talking about, what identity you want to give the team. And she said, I think that what we do is core for the organization. It's something, it's the core. So I said, well, why don't you call it the core team, and that allowed her to start changing the mentality of her team, and it's the core. And then we created some values in there, and that gave the team some tools to say, no, we're not going to do that. You see what I'm saying? We're the core, and we're going to focus on the things that are important. That what you're asking me is not important. You need to manage that yourself.
Wow, I love that. Now, Luis, and again, guys, if you're just joining us, I see Inger is here today. Inger, boy, I was just on her podcast this morning, and so Luis, I was talking about you today on the podcast, and again, what an honor and privilege. You want to absolutely connect with Luis on LinkedIn. You have tons of great articles you've been putting out. Just this week, I think you had one. Are you a difficult person to work for? Different topics that you come up with. Now, if I'm not mistaken, when we were in Miami together a couple months ago, and you shared about a touchy-feely class. Do I have that right, from Stanford?
Yeah.
Can you please enlighten, like, what is the touchy? And I guess it's like an iconic class. Can you please share a little bit of like what goes on in that class? And maybe that comes into like your coaching and your articles, but what is it? Tell everybody about this class.
So I've been, fortunate to be, working at Stanford. I facilitate a class that is called, Touchy-Feely. Is an iconic class. And the premise of the class is the following: gaining influence by connecting with others that are different from you. And at the end of the day, it's about, influencing others and helping others. You and I and everybody else here is in the business of moving people. We move people. We try people to go in one direction or not. And I think that a lot of times we just tell people what to do, and we completely miss the fact that in order for me to influence them, I need to connect with them.
Yeah.
So one example, for instance, is if a complete stranger comes and asks you, hey Kurt, can I borrow $50? Mm-hmm. What would your first question to me?
Do you take credit card?
What would be the second question?
What are you going to use it for?
Okay, what else? What is the next question?
You're going to pay me back.
Okay, what is the next question?
Can I charge interest?
All right. So now let's flip that, and I am your best friend, Kurt.
Right.
And I said, Kurt, I need $50. Can I borrow $50?
Right. I was like, well, I know I'll never see that again. You don't know my friends, Luis. No, I'm teasing. But right, it'd be a different mindset of like somebody that you care for, have a relationship with, versus.
My question to you is, what would you say if you're my best friend and I ask for $50? What would you say to me?
Absolutely.
All right. So the difference here is that when you start going and justifying your work and defending your work and come up with a bunch of stuff that prove that what you're doing is right, what you need is the relationship with that individual, because what you want that individual is to believe in you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, if you think about this, in going back to manufacturers or whatnot, a lot of times we want to show the features. Why are we better? All of these things, and sometimes all we require is the idea that this is something that can help you, and I'm giving it to you because I care about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the class at Stanford, it helps students to realize that to move people, they need to connect with them. To gain influence, you need to connect with them. And that is a lot based on how they come across. And I'll give you one example. One individual at one point, he was from Latin America, just like me, and I resonated with him tremendously for this. And every time that he will talk, he will raise his hand. And, every time that he will talk, he will raise his hand. And one student gave him some feedback, and I said, why do you do that? It is like, it reminds me of a kid that just, in the first grade that needs to go permission to go to the bathroom. And some other students said, no, that's not what come across. I feel that there is a lack of respect, because the way I see that is he raising his hand saying, okay, I'm going first. I'm going now. I'm going to tell you what I feel. The same behavior, two different perspectives. Yeah. And sometimes we have no idea how we come across. So the thing that we have to be relentless about asking for feedback and how we come across, because we need to learn something about ourselves through others. And in this particular occasion, to say, oh my gosh, two different mindsets, or two different perspectives on one act that is the same. He didn't know that. So he said, well, what is that you're going to do? I said, well, I think I'm going to stop doing it. You see what I'm saying? But he would not have known that if he didn't ask for the feedback. So the class...
go ahead. Go ahead.
The class is about that. It's about trying to connect with others that are different from you. And we discuss about gender dynamics. We discuss things about religion, class, because we make assumptions about people all the time, and we make assumptions about ourselves all the time, and that impedes us from being influential. So this class helps you to ask for feedback and come across in a way that you connect with others, so you can move together.
I want to take that class. It sounds amazing. I do have a follow-up about that, like asking for feedback. So I think as leaders, like I love to ask for feedback from the team all the time. And I tell you, a lot of times they really are hesitant to give it. So maybe there's some fear there, or they don't want to upset the boss, or I don't know what it is. So how do you approach that? Like, how would you ask for feedback in a way that feels safe, that they can really be radically candid, in that way?
I like that.
So there are two different things that I can see here. Number one is, asking for feedback, especially if there is a power dynamic.
Yeah.
What you just said is a power dynamic. Me as the boss asking for you as asking for feedback, that can be unsafe for you. Yes. So it's how you shape your words to elicit the response that you want. So rather than asking for feedback, I can say, for instance, hey, that presentation, how do you think it went?
Love it.
Or you can say, I see that there was some issues there. Is what next time? What do you think that I should do better? So by asking people to give you suggestions,
I love that.
It's so much
it's very
easier, because then everybody wants to give advice, and if your boss asks for advice, oh my gosh, it means a lot to you. You see what I'm saying? It's like if you are in a powerful position and you come and say, hey, I'm trying to do this. What suggestions do you have for me? You will give all the suggestions because you feel value, you feel relevant, and you feel respected. Let's put it that way. And I think that's what we need to do. Is not just ask for feedback, because that is, if there is a power dynamic, it's hard for the person that you're asking feedback from to give it to you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I love it. I love the idea of asking for specific suggestions and basing it specifically on whatever you're working on at the time, rather than a general, like, I'd love to get your general feedback on, so that's really wonderful feedback. Thank you.
And you just had I think this another article that was phenomenal. Empower your team to solve problems without you. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Luis, you gave like a a case example where like this particular leader felt like she was doing the right thing by like, forgive the like a little bit of a mother hen, like just, I'm going to protect my people. I'm going to shelter them from these challenges. But like she was, actually causing more harm in her good intentions of like protecting folks. And Nicole, I thought this was a great topic for us. Can you talk a little bit about like how do you, I guess if this is a segue or a continuation, part two of what you just answered, how do you help empower your team to solve those problems without you?
Yeah. So I think that, if you think about this, and this happens all the time, especially with the small business owners and even myself, that every single transaction is key. Every single sale is key. And we want everything to be perfect. You see what I'm saying? Because it's and I think that a lot of times we want to be in control of everything, and we hire really great people, but we want to be able to not to control them, but the way in this particular people is that people that want to protect their team. I am going to make sure that you're okay. I'm going to make sure that the you don't run into trouble. So there is a level there of protectionism because you care about them and because you want to be in control. You see what I'm saying? There's two different things there, but usually it's one or the other. And I think that the key here is to realize that people want to do a great job. And if you raise the bar for people, they're going to get there. So it's not about do this the way I say it, because then the law is very low. But if you tell them, the goal is X, do it. Then they're gonna figure out a way to do it. The way I describe this to people is think about the difference between an author and an editor. The author writes the book. The editor reviews that all the components of the book are okay. So the way I that mental model, I tell people, the managers, be the editor. Let your people write the book. You give them the subjects, you give them the framework, and then just let them write the book, and you'd be the editor. And a lot of times what we do is we go and try to write the book with them or for them.
Yeah. That's such a drop the mic moment.
Oh, that is a total. So, Luis,
Yeah.
So Nicole and I, we're in the Eastern time zone. So, on our program, we cut. It's like we want to savor this a little bit, like it's lunchtime, like like there's a good aroma in the air. So we want to just savor that mic drop right there. That was just, I love that analogy. That completely hit home. Of like, be the editor. You don't have to be the author of every person of your team, of your staff, and on leadership. You have a great quote that I want to share. You cannot control the rain. You want to finish that one for me? You cannot control the rain, but
you can control if you get wet or not.
You can control.
And I want to be honest with this. That quote is the only one of all the quotes that I've said that belongs to me, that I actually say, I say that.
This is Luis's. So another mic drop.
This is something that but for instance, the editor and those analogy that I wish it was mine. That's not mine. That was what is the name of the guy who the founder of Twitter and
Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, that was his mental model. You see what I'm saying? So but the idea here is the way I see it, there are two types of problems, Kurt. There are gravity problems and there are situational problems. And the gravity problems are things like the rain. You cannot control the rain. You cannot make rain stop. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes we complain about the gravity problems all the time and try to solve the gravity problems. We cannot do that, But what we can do is how can we deal with the rain that is falling? I can put a jacket, I can just run, or I can an umbrella, or I can just decide not to go. Right. You see what I'm saying? So, and that is a situation of you are in control of dealing with how to deal with the rain. You're not in control of whether it rains or not. And I think a lot of times that's what happens in, with some of my clients, that they want to fix the rain, the gravity problem, and rather than, okay, let's figure out what is in your control and deal with that.
Yeah. We can always sing in the rain, right, Luis? Not me, but other people can sing in the rain, right, Nicole?
Dance.
And
All those
dance
things.
in the rain. But so I love that quote, and how special is it that I just grabbed that off your website, and I'm glad that that's your quote. We're going to start winding down. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. I know, Luis, you are a super busy dude. I'm just so honored and appreciative of you beyond words. And I want to share. Again, if you guys caught, please go back and rewind. You were my hero before I met you, and I had huge high expectations coming into this. When I had an opportunity to meet you, and you have far exceeded them. You become just such a dear friend, mentor to me. Before we wind down, I know, Nicole, you had a number of questions. I just want to be mindful to you. Do you have another question there that you wanted to fire? You had some really juicy ones. I thought you had another good leadership question.
Yes. I'm just really curious. There's a lot, just with what's going on in the economy in the world right now for leaders, it seems like there's just a lot of uncertainty, right? So I'm just curious, what do you recommend for leaders to do to kind of deal with that uncertainty and lead their teams through this uncertainty that may be happening in a lot of organizations right now, and a lot of people are struggling with that. But what are some of your recommendations for leading teams through uncertain times, changes happening, and you just don't really know or are sure what's going to be on the horizon, which is every day when you're a business owner, right? But how do you help leaders navigate their teams with that, and also make sure that they're taking care of themselves through all of that?
There is a quote, not mine, also, that is this about where the attention goes is where the energy goes.
Okay.
So yes, there is a lot of things happening in the world. There is a lot of things in the uncertainty, but if we focus on that, it's hard. So I think that for the way I see it is that every when there is chaos and crises, there is also opportunities in there. There is a quote, I don't remember who said it, but it's something along this line: "Don't let a good crisis go to waste."
Yeah, don't let a good crisis.
I love that. I've never heard that before. That's amazing.
And if you think about that, just think about COVID-19. It's like that disrupted, but also accelerated so many other businesses in there. People had to adapt and find ways to dealing with that gravity problem. But I think that the key here is not focus on, oh my God, I give an example. When COVID started, I had two proposals to two different companies. One company came back and said, oh my gosh, we need to be conservative. We don't know what's going to happen. So can we, put this on hold? And when thing ends, then we can revisit. I'm still waiting for the other company said, when can we start it? Because this is what we need right now for our people, for our clients. We need to get this done. So I think that what they did, and I remember, talking to the CEO, and he said, what we need to do is to do a reallocation of resources. It's not about conserving, but reallocate the resources that you have to drive what I call the growth engines. My wife, she's a very wise woman, and I got so lucky marrying her. At one point, I was working with an organization, and I had some issues that we're not going there. And my contract was terminated. The contract that I had with them was terminated. That was 40% of my income, and I came with my wife, and my idea is, oh, honey, we need to tie our belts, we need to do X, we need to do that. And then she says to me, Luis, you got it wrong. We need to figure out how to make more money, not how to conserve, but how to make more money.
Yes.
And I'm like, holy cow, that completely changed my vision. And I started, okay, how can I spend the time that I have now, to I can raise my prices, I can look for, higher value clients. So I think that every crisis has downs, but there is also plenty of opportunities that you need to look for. So when there is something like that, the best way to motivate your people is to help them and use them to see the opportunities rather than the apocalypse.
All the clouds, right?
And here is the outcome doesn't matter.
Yeah. So true. It reminds me of my daughters. We were just at spring break last week and we were sitting waiting for our tour to start and they're just bored, right? Just sitting on the chair. And all of a sudden my youngest sees like this used up wine cork on the ground. And she gets up and she starts kicking it around like a soccer ball. It was just the sweetest thing. And then my oldest saw it and she started doing it. And I was just like, man, this is resourcefulness, right? Like trying to make the most of what's in front of you. And they just had such a fun time playing with this little wine cork. And I think as business owners, as leaders, it's such a great advice to just really focus on what opportunities and resources that you have and see what you can do with that rather than what you've lost or what maybe.
And I love that example that you have about resourcefulness, because a lot of times, even business owners or even myself, we think about things are going to go well when we have our strategy. Things are going to go well when I get this client. Things are going to go well when I get a promotion. Things are going to go well with X. And I think that we make plans based on things that haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true.
And I think that what we need to do then is adapt and work with what we have to make things better for ourselves and for the people that work with us.
Oh, man.
Another drop the mic right there. So, all right, as we, Luis, that was phenomenal. Here's our last question for the day. First off, thank you. Dude, you are such a blessing. You're just such a gift. I'm just so appreciative that our paths have crossed. My last question, I opened up with who is your hero? And you said mom and dad. Great story. My question to you, you're all about resiliency, inspiration, just bringing out the best in everybody. Moving forward, and I might know the answer, so I might be a little Captain Obvious here. Who or what is your inspiration moving forward for the rest of the year here? Who or what is your inspiration?
I don't remember talking about this, but now I'm pausing because I need to think about this. I think that my inspiration, which is also my anchor, are my kids and my family.
I think they're right over your shoulder, right?
My children, and I think that my wife and our goal is to grow to humans that are kind, strong, confident, and resilient, and that's what we spend the time. And I think that if you find your motivation, then you will walk through fire to get it done. And that I will say, I will walk through fire for my kids and my wife. So everything I do is to make sure that they're my anchor.
So, and we'll wrap up on this, Nicole. So I was with a group in Miami with Luis, and a similar type topic came up, and he dropped that story, and the way he told it, there was not a dry eye in the room. And so, Luis, I just wanted to hit that at you again. So,
thank you.
Dude, thank you, and boy, thank you to the chat box, everybody out there. There's Patricia, Ingor. I appreciate you guys chiming in today. Absolutely, definitely want to connect with Luis here. You're just getting a little flavor. He's got a great book coming out. He has incredible articles on Harvard Business Review. You want to catch his motivation, inspiration, his genius, all these golden nuggets that he just dropped this past hour. And so, Nicole, parting words that you want to share with our crowd today?
Oh, this has just been so amazing. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet you, Luis, and just keep doing the wonderful work that you're doing. It's so great. And yes, just bravo. I feel like I've just loved soaking it all in. And yep, awesome. That's all I got.
Big round of applause. So, all right, guys, give Luis a big round of applause. go out and what we love to share with everybody. First off, big thank you to Luis. Again, connect with Luis. And secondly, boy, just go out and be someone's inspiration, just like you got a great dose of inspiration here with Luis. Luis, hang out with us for 1 second. We wish everybody an amazing, incredible, wonderful weekend. God bless you guys. And we will see you we'll be back here on Monday. So Luis, hang out 1 second and we'll see you soon. Thanks.